They say success is the best revenge. I say success with a touch of irony tastes even better. The city looked like it was dipped in gold from my office window, the late afternoon sun bouncing off glass towers. My reflection stared back at me. Black silk blouse, cream pencil skirt, diamond bracelet catching a light. It wasn't about showing off. It was about wearing a life I'd built from scratch. My phone buzzed on the desk. I glanced at it, mid-sip of my jasmine tea. A message from Erin, an old college roommate I hadn't spoken to in years. Attached was a screenshot of a group chat. I didn't have to read more than a few lines before I felt that familiar heat in my cheeks, the same one I used to get in the lecture hall all those years ago. Remember when Chloe's phone froze during her big presentation? That thing was prehistoric. I swear, it belonged in a museum. I set the phone down slowly, letting the corner of my mouth curl. The irony? Every single person in that chat now worked for companies that relied on my platform, my startup, every single day. Tonight, I was walking onto the biggest stage of my career, about to unveil our newest product to a packed conference hall. And somewhere out there, some of them would be in the audience. They had no idea yet, but they were about to. I can still remember that lecture hall, the kind with rows of seats climbing upward like a small stadium. I was 19, a sophomore at Emerson University in Boston, clutching the only phone I could afford, a second-hand model with a cracked corner and a stubborn battery. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. And in my mind, that was enough. That day, I was presenting my final project for entrepreneurship in the digital age. My palms were already damp, but I'd practiced for weeks. My idea was a simple app that could organize small business inventories on a budget. The first 2 slides went smoothly, then my phone screen froze. Dead. A laugh started in the back row, sharp, quick, like a match being struck. Then it spread. Guess your digital age skipped a few years, someone called out. Heat flooded my face. My throat closed. I fumbled with the charger, but the outlet didn't work. More laughter. Someone whispered, "She probably found that thing in a thrift store bin." I wanted to disappear. Instead, I grabbed my backup, a stack of handwritten notes on index cards, and kept going. My voice shook, but I finished. Not one professor or classmate clapped. When I got back to my dorm, I threw myself onto the bed, face buried in the pillow. That's when I felt it, the leather-bound notebook wedged under my pillow. My dad had given it to me before I left home, saying, "Chloe, the tool doesn't make the creator. People may mock your tools, but brilliance comes from here." He tapped my forehead. That night, I wrote in big block letters across the first page, "Never give them the power to laugh you out of your own dream." 2 weeks later, I withdrew from the entrepreneurship program. I didn't quit school. I just stopped waiting for permission to be taken seriously. I picked up shifts at a coffee shop, took a night job stocking shelves, and started teaching myself coding on that same prehistoric phone, because buying a new one wasn't an option yet. I stopped trying to fit in with my classmates. I started building something they couldn't see coming. They thought they'd buried me in that moment. But I was planting something. The first year after I walked out of that program was the hardest year of my life. Boston winters have a way of testing you. Snow seeped into the seams of my boots as I trudged between my coffee shop shift in the morning and my warehouse job at night. My tiny studio apartment smelled perpetually of burnt toast and cold air. Most nights, after both jobs, I'd curl up on my thrift store couch with my battered phone and an ancient laptop I'd bought from a pawn shop for $70. I wasn't scrolling Instagram or texting friends. I was buried in YouTube tutorials and free coding courses. I didn't just want to learn how to make an app. I wanted to understand every single line of code, like it was a second language. One night, I signed up for a free Women in Tech workshop at the public library. That's where I met Margaret Liu, a retired software engineer who had this quiet authority, the kind of woman who'd seen enough tech bros to be immune to arrogance. She looked at my messy prototype, then at me, and said, "It's rough, but your logic is sharp. You've got something here." She started meeting me at the library twice a week. She didn't just teach me programming, she taught me how to think like an architect, not just a builder. 2 years in, I launched my first app. It was small, a free inventory tracker for mom-and-pop stores. My first big win was a bakery in Brooklyn that used it to save hours every week. The owner sent me a box of pastries as thanks. I still remember opening it and feeling like it was the first real paycheck for my dream. I saved every penny. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't post about my hustle on social media. I let my classmates think I was just another underpaid millennial working random jobs. By year 4, I'd built 3 more tools, all practical, affordable, and designed for small businesses. Margaret connected me to an angel investor who believed in my mission, making tech accessible without the ridiculous price tag. With that funding, I incorporated my company, Signalworks. We started in a rented co-working space with 2 interns and a single coffee machine that groaned every morning. 6 months later, we landed a contract with a mid-sized logistics firm. They rolled out our platform nationwide. From there, word spread. Our software became the backbone for dozens of small to mid companies, including, unknowingly, some owned or employed by those same people who once laughed in that lecture hall. I could have announced my success online, posted glossy photos, and waited for the "wow, you made it" messages to roll in. But I didn't. Some things are better when they stay quiet until the right moment. The invitation came in a glossy black envelope with silver lettering. Boston Innovators Summit, keynote speaker, Chloe Anderson, CEO of Signalworks. I knew exactly what it meant. This wasn't just a conference. This was a reunion disguised as a tech event. Many of my former classmates had climbed the corporate ladder into positions that now relied on my software, and they didn't even know it was mine. The morning of the keynote, I walked into the convention center's green room wearing a cream-tailored suit and nude heels. My hair was pulled back into a sleek low bun, my diamond bracelet glinting under the soft lights. I could hear the hum of hundreds of conversations beyond the stage curtain. I took a slow breath, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the faint metallic tang of the stage equipment. My assistant handed me a sleek silver remote for the presentation slides. It felt nothing like that heavy, outdated phone I'd once clutched in panic years ago, but the memory of it was right there with me. As the MC's voice boomed, "Please welcome our keynote speaker," I stepped into the light. The hall was massive, rows upon rows of faces, a sea of suits and lanyards. And there, halfway back, I spotted them. Brian, Jenna, and Mark, 3 of the loudest laughers from that lecture hall years ago. They looked older, polished, and completely unaware. I smiled. "Good morning," I began, my voice steady but warm. "Today, I want to talk about innovation and the underestimated power of starting small." I clicked to the first slide, a grainy photo of a cracked, outdated smartphone. The audience chuckled politely. "This," I said, "was my first workspace. My first office. My first everything. I built my first prototype on this phone after it crashed on me during a college presentation." Some people called it a relic. Others laughed outright. From the corner of my eye, I caught Brian's smirk falter. Jenna shifted in her seat. Mark's jaw tightened. I moved through the slides, showing early prototypes, my co-working space, the first bakery that used my app. Then I clicked to the final slide, the current Signalworks platform, its client list scrolling on the screen. Gasps rippled through the room. "Yes," I said, "if your company coordinates shipments, manages inventory, or tracks deliveries in real time, there's a good chance you're using Signalworks. And if you are, you're using something built on that so-called prehistoric phone." I let the words hang in the air. In the front row, an older man leaned forward, whispering to his colleague. Phones lit up across the room, people looking up the company, piecing it together in real time. I closed the laptop, stepped away from the podium, and let my gaze sweep across the hall. The moral isn't that you need the latest tools. It's that you need relentless belief in what you're building, even when no one else sees it yet. Especially then. The applause started small, then swelled until the air vibrated with it. Cameras flashed. As I stepped off stage, I felt a tap on my arm. I turned to see Jenna, her designer handbag slung over her shoulder, eyes wide. "Chloe, I had no idea," she said, almost breathless. "I know," I replied, smiling just enough. Most people don't until it's time they did. Behind her, Brian and Mark approached, hands outstretched, awkward compliments ready on their lips. I shook their hands, but I didn't give them the full story. Not yet. That was coming on my terms. After the keynote, the green room became a revolving door. Investors, executives, and journalists wanted a word. But the ones I noticed most were the three from my past. Jenna came first. She'd softened her tone, her smile more careful now. Listen, Chloe, my company's been struggling with logistics. We could really use your platform directly. Maybe you could give us a special rate. Brian hovered just behind her, already pulling a business card from his pocket. We're looking to integrate Signalworks into our retail operations, he said quickly, like getting the words out first would give him an advantage. Mark tried the buddy angle. Hey, I know we gave you a hard time in school, water under the bridge, right? Let's find a way to work together. I leaned back in my chair, crossing one leg over the other. For a moment, I let them hang in that silence, the weight of the shift settling over all of us. I'm open to partnerships, I said finally, but Signalworks doesn't just sign contracts. We align with values. They exchanged glances. Values?
Jenna asked. Yes.
If you want to work with us, here are the conditions. 1. Every intern you hire gets paid. No experience-only work. 2. You launch a mentorship program for women in your industry. 3. You commit at least 5% of annual profits to funding small business innovation. Brian frowned. That's generous of you, but it's a lot. I smiled. It's non-negotiable. You see, I didn't build this company just to make money. I built it to make sure no one starting with less gets dismissed the way I was. Mark shifted uncomfortably. And if we can't commit to all that? Then, I said, picking up my phone, you're free to keep using the standard version of our platform through your current providers. At the regular rate. The message was clear. They didn't get the inside track just because they suddenly remembered my name. They got it if they were willing to change the way they operated, to pass the ladder down instead of pulling it up. Jenna's lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. We'll discuss it internally, she said. Brian muttered something about running it by the board. Mark just stuffed his hands in his pockets and mumbled, good talk. I didn't chase them. Whether they signed on or not wasn't the point. The point was that the power had shifted permanently and they knew it. For years, they decided what was worthy, who was worthy. Now they were the ones standing outside the door, waiting for permission to come in. 2 months later, my assistant slid a stack of new partnership contracts across my desk. I recognized the names immediately. Jenna's firm had implemented a paid internship program and was already mentoring young women in their industry. Brian's retail chain had committed 5% of profits to fund small-town entrepreneurs. Even Mark's logistics company, the one I was sure wouldn't budge, had launched a Women in Tech scholarship. I didn't need their gratitude, but seeing proof that my terms were more than just talk, that was a different kind of win. That night, I stayed late in the office. The city was awash in neon and streetlights, the hum of traffic a low background melody. My desk was neat except for one thing, my dad's old leather-bound notebook. It had been with me since that night in college, the one where I swore I'd never let their laughter define me. The edges were worn, the leather softened with age, the faint smell of ink still lingering. I opened the first page and read my 19-year-old handwriting. Never give them the power to laugh you out of your own dream. I traced the words with my fingertip, smiling. The girl who wrote them had no idea she'd one day sit here, in a corner office with her name on the door, watching the same people who once mocked her change their business models because she demanded better. And maybe that was the most satisfying part. Not the applause. Not the contracts. But knowing I'd use my seat at the table to pull up more chairs. I closed the notebook, slipping it back into my bag. Tomorrow would bring new deals, new challenges. But tonight, I let myself enjoy the stillness. Leaning back in my chair, I looked out at the skyline, the same city where I'd once trudged through snow in worn-out boots, clutching a phone everyone thought was a joke. My voice, low but certain, filled the quiet room. They laughed at my phone, but I turned their laughter into the signal that built an empire.